ॐ शुक्लाम्भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। हयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वती नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிரக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्री पार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन्। हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं। नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुवमभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं। श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Welcome everyone. Good morning. So I think in 82 we had to review, 81 we had to review, no 80, okay, which is 78, sorry. So yeah, Vani Garu, can you do that? 78.
Yeah. Om Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Rukmini Swayamvaram. त्रिदशवर्धकि वर्धितकौशलं त्रिदशदत्तसमस्तविभूतिमत् जलधिमध्यगतं त्वमभूषयो नवपुरं वपुरञ्चितरोचिषा तदुषिरेवत भूभृतिरेवतीं हलभृते तनयां विधिशासनात् महितमुत्सवघोषमं पूपुषः समदितैर्मुदितैः सह यादवैः
Samuditai, and the fourth line, Samuditair.
समुदितैर्मुदितैः सह यादवैः अत विदर्भसुतां खलु रुक्मिणीं प्रणयिनीं त्वयि देव सहोदरः स्वयमदित्सत चेति महीभुजे स्वतमसा तमसाधुमपाश्रयन्
Upashrayan.
sorry स्वतमसा तमसाधुमुपाश्रयन् शरधृतप्रणया त्वयि बालिका सपदि समाकुला तव निवेदयितुं द्विजमादिशत् स्वकदनं विनिर्मितम्.
When you got the first word, chira. I think you said chara, chiradrita. Okay.
Okay. द्विजसुतोऽपि चतुर्नमुपाययौ तव पुरं हि दुरासदम् मुदमवाप च सादरपूजितः स भवतापहृता स्वयं स च भवन्तमवोचत कुण्डिने नृपसुता खलु राजति रुक्मिणी त्वयि समुत्सुकया निजधीरता रहितया हितया प्रहितोऽस्म्यहम् तव हृतास्मि पुरैव गुणैरहं हरति मां किल चेदि नृपोऽधुना अयि कृपालय पालय मामिति जगदे कपते तया अशरणां यदि मां त्वमुपेक्षसे सपदि जीवितमे जहाम्यहम् इति गिरासुतनोरतनोद्भृशं हृदयं तव कातरम् अकथयस्वमथैन मये सखे अदधिका मम मन्मथ वेदनां नृपसमक्षमुपेत्य हराम्यहम् दयितामसि ते क्षणाम् प्रमुदितेन च तेन समं तदा रथगतो लघुकुण्डिन मेयिवान् कुरु मरुत्पुर नायक मे भवान् वितनुतां तनुतामखिलापदाम्
Nikhila padam, the last word. Nikhila padam.
वितनुतां तनुतामखिलापदाम्.
No, Nikhila padam.
So I have it as tan vitanutam tanutam akhila padam.
Yeah, can you change that Akhila to Nikhila? Nikhila padam.
Okay.
So I think the slight is a slightly subtle difference between Akhila and Nikhila. By the way, my book has Nikhila, so we'll change to Nikhila anyways. But Akhila means like everything, right? And everything means it is sometimes constrained to what you have or what you can see, that everything. Nikhila is kind of, there's no exception, like everything that is possible, like everything. Akhila is everything that is possible. Nikhila is like absolutely everything, no exception, right? So that's why the Nikhila Padam. So he says like, so Nikhila Padam, so remove all the diseases or afflictions I'm having, right? That's the prayer. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, you can change it to Nikhila Padam there to be consistent. Okay. Okay. So 82. I thought we ended at 6. Yeah, that's right, right? Okay. So we ended up at 6. Okay.
Yes, 6. Yeah.
All right. So we'll get started here. So Sindhuji, you and Narayani, you can be in the first group, first round. Okay, stanza 7. Chapanham panchashatya प्रसभमुपगते छिन्नचापेतबाणे व्यर्थे याते समेतो ज्वरपतिरजनैरज्वरित्वज्वरेण ज्ञानी स्तुत्वा तदत्वा तव चरितजुषां विज्वरं सज्वरोगात् प्रत्योऽन्तर्ज्ञानवन्तोऽपि च बहुतमसा रौद्रचेष्टा हि रौद्राः. So you already covered the meaning of 7 and 8, right? So essentially here is where that Shiva Jwara comes and the Vishnu Jwara comes and the Shiva Jwara surrenders, all that. So that was this. So Chapanam Pancha Shatya, comma, Prasabham Upagate Chinna Chapeta Bane, comma, Vyarte Yate Sameto, comma. So the next word I'm going to break it into 3. So if you want to, Jwarapatir Ajanair Ajwari. Those are the 3 things, but you can say it together as well. Jwarapati Rajanair Ajwari together. Or that Ra, you can break it into Ir and A. Yes.
My book has Jwarapati Rashanai. So
Yeah,
is it
Jwarapati Rashanai.
Ashanair. You have a Ra there, right? Or do you have a Visarga there?
No. Jwarapati Rasha.
After the Ra.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Jwarapatir Ashanair. Correct. So, Jwarapatir Ashanair Ajwari Tvajwarena. Okay. Sorry. Chapanham Panchashatya Prasabhamupagate Chinnachapeta Vyarte Yate Sameto Jwarapatir Ashanair Ajwaritvajwarena.
Chabanam Panchashatya Prasabhamupagate Chinnachapeta Vyarte Yate Sameto Jwarapatir Ashanair Chabanam Panchashatya Prasabhamupagate Chinnachapeta Vyarte Yate Samedo Jwarapadirashanairazwaritvajwarena.
Chapanam Panchashatya Prasabam Upagate Chinna Chapethabane Vyarte Yate Sameto Jwarapatirashanair Ajvari Tvajwarena. Chapanam Panchashatya Prasabam Upagate Chinna Chapethabane Vyarte Yate Sameto Jwarapatirashanair Ajvari Tvajwarena.
Jnani Stutvata Datva, comma, Tava Charita Jusham Vijwaram Sa Jwarogat, comma, Prayontar. So that you can say it together. Prayo Antar, but it goes together. Prayontar Jnana Vantopi Cha, comma, Bahu Tamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha. Jnani Stutva Tadatva Tava Charita Jusham Vijwaram Sajwarogate Prayontar Jnanavanto Piche Bahutamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha.
Jnani Stutva Dadatva Tava Charita Jusham Vijwaram Sajwarogad Prayondar Jnanavando Vija Bahutamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha. Jnani Stutva Dadatva Tava Charita Jusham Vijwaram Sajwarogad Prayondar Jnanavando Vija Bahutamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha.
Narayani mute lirke.
Jnani Stutva Tadatva Tava Charita Jusham Vijwaram Satchwarogat Prayontar Jnana Vantopicha Bahutamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha. Jnani Stutva Tadatva Tava Charita Jusham Vijwaram Sajwarogat Prayontar Jnanavantopi cha Bahutamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha.
Sanjay. Banam Nana Yudhogram पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद् वितन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि भुबुदुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः तद्वाचा शिष्टबाहुद्वितयमुभयतो निर्भयं तत्प्रियं तं मुक्त्वा तद्दत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सानिरुद्धः सहोषः. This is the final battle that happens between Krishna and Bana, where all the arms go, and then he retains still 4 arms, 2 on each side, and then says you'll still be committed to helping Shiva out and everything. And finally, along with his grandson Aniruddha and Usha, who's Bana's daughter, they then come to Nijapuram. They come back to Dwaraka. Banam nanayudhogram, punarabhipatitam darpa doshad vitanvan, निर्लूनाशेष दोषम सपदि बुबुधुषा शंकरेणोपगीतः. So upagitah comes the word, but it goes together. Shankarenopagitah.
Is it bubudusha or dusham?
Bubudusha.
Okay.
Banam nanayudhogram पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद् वितन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि भुबुदुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः.
बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद् वितन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि भुबुदुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः. बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद्युदन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि बुबुदुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः.
बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषात् वितन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि बुबुदुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः. बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषात् वितन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि बुबुदुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः.
तद् वाचा शिष्ट बाहु द्वितयम् उभयतो. If you want to break it, द्वितयम् उभयतो निर्भयं tat priyam tam. There's no pause in that line, comma then. Muktva tadhattamano. So double da, double tha. Tadhattamano nijapuram agamaha, comma. Saniruddaha, put a is to join. Saniruddas sahoshaha. Tadvacha shishtabahudvitayamubhayato nirbhayam tatpriyam tam muktva taddattamano nijapuramagamaha saniruddhas sahoshaha.
तद्वाजा शिष्टबाहुद्विदयमुभयदो निर्भयं तत्प्रियं तं मुक्त्वा तद्दत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सानिरुद्धः सहोषः. तद्वाजा शिष्टबाहुद्विदयमुभयदो निर्भयं तत्प्रियं तं मुक्त्वा तद्दत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सानिरुद्धः सहोषः.
तद्वाचा शिष्टबाहुद्वितयमुभयतो निर्भयं तत्प्रियं तं मुक्त्वा दत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सानिरुद्धः सहोषः. तद्वाचा शिष्टबाहुद्वितयमुभयतो निर्भयं तत्प्रियं तं मुक्त्वा दत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सानिरुद्धः सहोषः.
And this fourth line, second word, right? Taddatta, and somehow I heard something slightly different. First ta. Taddatta.
Taddatta.
Yeah. Okay.
Taddatta.
I have a doubt. The first line of this stanza, enga comma or the ore adathana comma, or there are multiple commas.
The Banam Nanayudh, that line?
No.
After Nanayudhogram, there is a comma.
Oh.
Then end of the line, there is a comma. Then next line, after Nirluna Shesha Dosham.
Super. Thank you. Thank you.
Stanza 9. Muhustavachakkram varunamajayo nandaharane yamam balanitau davadahanapane nilasakam Vidim vatsatsehe girishamiha bhanasya samare vibho vishwotkarshi tadayam avataro jayati te. See, Bhattacharya is saying, if you kind of he's not summarizing Krishna Avataram because that comes later, right? But he says, you've defeated Indra a few times, right? So once when the Indraprastha was established, there was a battle between Arjuna and Indra, which Krishna helped. When before Indra, because it's Khandava Prastha, it was a forest which then became Indraprastha because Indra then gave that land. So that was one. Second, of course, we all know the Govardhana incident, right? But Indra tried to go against Krishna and all that. Then he says, then if you remember the episode where Nandagopa goes to take bath early in the morning and then he disappears, and then Krishna goes to Varuna Loka and brings back Nandagopa. Says you went to Varuna and you also brought back. Again, there was no conflict, but then you did go and put Varuna under control. Then of course Dahani Agni, Krishna swallowed the forest fire. Couple of times that happened. So you also protected everybody against the forest fire. Then Brahma, of course, when the Vatsapaharanam happened, and then Brahma tried to take away the calves and the boys, you did that. And again here, when Shiva was, when Bana was there, although there was no battle quite between Shiva and Vishnu and Krishna, he says, but Shiva also was involved. So essentially, Bhattacharya is summarizing all this and saying that, you are this avataram. Jayati is victorious because you kind of establish supremacy, saying you are the absolute Lord, and all of these demigods like Indra, Varuna, and Agni, and everybody, you got them to the realization. So therefore, this is the great avataram incarnation of yours. So Muhus Tavach Chakram Varuna Majayo Nanda Harane, comma. So this paragraph, there's going to be no pause in between, just at the very end of every line. Nanda Harane, comma. Yamam Bala Nitau Dava Dahana Pane Nila, together Pane Nila Sakam. Muhustava Chakram Varuna Majahyo Nandaharane Yamam Bala Nitau Dava Dahana Pane Nila Sakam.
मुहुस्तावच्चक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीदौ दवदहनबाणे निलसखम् मुहुस्तावच्चक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीदौ दवदहनबाणे निलसखम्
मुहुस्तावच्चक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसकम् मुहुस्तावच्चक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसकम्
Vidhim Vatsa Steye Girishamiha Banasya Samare, comma, Vibho Vishwotkarshi Tadayam Avataro, if you want to break it, Tadayam Avataro Jayatite. Vidhim Vatsastehe Girishamiha Banasya Samare Vibho Vishwotkarshi Tadayam Avataro Jayatite.
विधिं वत्सस्तेये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयदिते विधिं वत्सस्तेये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयदिते
विधिं वत्सस्ते ये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते विधिं वत्सस्ते ये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते.
Stand certain. This one the tune changes. Dvijarusha Krikalasavapurdharam Nriganrupam Tridivalayamapayan Nijajane Dvija Bhakti Manuttamam Upadishan Pavaneshwara Pahimam. Just a very quick story happens here in one stanza. So one day, that after all this has happened, some of the Yadava dynasty boys, they were all playing somewhere in the kingdom, and they found like a chameleon, right? A big sized chameleon, which was actually in a well, in a dry well. They were looking for water, and then they found this big chameleon there. They tried to lift that chameleon, was struggling to come up. So they tried to help that chameleon come up, but they could not. So somebody ends up going and reporting to Krishna, and Krishna knows what was happening there. So he ends up going to the spot. And when he goes and then he tries to help the chameleon, and when Krishna touches that chameleon, he tries to lift his left hand, suddenly that chameleon now changes forms and actually becomes like a demigod. It gets transformed. So then Krishna, of course, knows what the story is, but then for the benefit of others, he asks this person, who are you and what are you doing and how come you were in such a form of a lizard, right? That what caused you to, and then suddenly now you become a demigod, right? So he says that his name is King Nriga, Nrga, Nriga. And he used to be a very charitable king in his previous life, and he has done a lot of good things, especially for the Brahmins and everything. And he was known for his charity work. And every now and then he used to call a lot of people and give them a lot of cows and all these in charity. So he says once what happened when he was doing this charity, and he had invited hundreds or whatever number of Brahmins, and they were all like very senior level people, and he had given one cow to one Brahmin, and then that cow, multiple cows, one of the cows of that Brahmin ended up getting mixed back into this herd of other cows which he was waiting to give as dhanam. So when he went to the other Brahmin, he ended up accidentally giving this cow, the same cow which he had given to the other Brahmin. So when the second Brahmin was walking away, the first Brahmin saw that and said, hey, that is a cow which was given to me. How come you got it? So then they both keep arguing, and they both come back to Nriga and tell Nriga, how is it that you first gave a Brahmin a cow, then you give the same cow to some other Brahmin? That means you're stealing a Brahmin's property, quote unquote, technically speaking. So this Nriga says, that it's purely, he says, I have no idea how this happened. He apologizes, and then he says, I'll give you guys hundreds of cows, right? But don't fight over that one cow, because I don't know who that cow needs to belong to now, the first Brahmin or second Brahmin. But somehow something happens and both of them get disappointed and they walk away saying, we don't want anything, right? So this Nriga says, when he dies, and then he says his whole life he had done great things, and he was getting elevated to be potentially a demigod because of all the charitable work he has done. But he still had this one stain, which was a curse of a Brahmin, and a Brahmin not being happy, and then quote unquote stealing a Brahmin's property. So he says then he was given a choice. Do you want to first go to heavens and enjoy all your good things, or do you want to first suffer through the one sin that you committed? And he says, I'll suffer through the one sin. And then he was told, okay, you're going to be born as a chameleon, and then eventually you will get liberated. So he says that was what happened. That's why I was born as a chameleon, and now he gets liberated. So Krishna also tells this story. Krishna also tells to all the people there, it's very important that first of all not to steal, of course, that we all know, but also be very careful. He says when you're dealing with learned people, right? He uses the word Brahmin. Brahmins are learned people. We should be very conscious of not stealing their property. Because the Brahmins, at least in those days, not nowadays, at least in those days, were surviving purely based on charity, right? They were not having any other income, and they were committing their lives to teaching people and purely surviving on charity. So stealing from that person is even worse than stealing from somebody who might have something that might probably have less impact. Anyway, so that is the story that happens here, and eventually Nriga gets liberated. So Dvija Rusha Krikalasa Vapur Dharam, Nriga Nripam Tridivalayam Apayan Nija Jane Dvija Bhaktim Anuttamam. If you want to break it, Bhaktim Anuttamam. So put a im there and a comma. Next word starts with the U. Upadishan Pavaneshwara Pahimam. Dvijarusha Krikalasavapurdharam Nriganripam Tridivalayamapayan Nijajane Dvija Bhaktimanuttamam Upadishan Pavaneshwara Pahimam.
Dvijarusha Krikalasavapurdharam Nriganripam Tridivalayamapayan Nijajane Dvija Bhaktimanuttamam Ubadishan Bhavaneshwara Pahimam. Dvijarusha Krigala Savaburdharam Nriganribam Tridivalayamapayan Nijajane Dvija Bhaktimanuttamam Ubadishan Bhavaneshwara Pahimam.
Dvijarusha Krikalasavapurdharam Nripam Nriti Valayamayyan Nijajane Dvija Bhakti Manuttamam Upadishan Pavaneshwara Pahimam Dvijarusha Krikalasa Vapurdharam Nripam Nritivalayamapayan Nijajane Dvija Bhakti Manuttamam Upadishan Pavaneshwara Pahimam.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, we'll move on to 83. So 83, there are two things happening. One is Paundraka Vadavarnanam, so Paundraka person. Second is Vividha, there's a ape or a gorilla called as Vividha or Dvividha. So Vividha is what is put here. So Vividha Vadavarnanam. So two stories happening here. So stanza 1. Ramet Gokulagate Pramadha Prasakte Hutanupeeta Yamunadamane Madandhe Swairam Samaramati Sevakavada Mudho Dutam Nyayungta Tava Paundrakava Sudhevaha. So two stories quickly happening in this one stanza. So one is one day Balarama goes to Gokulam, the old Gokulam where they originally were. So some of these Gopas, they moved to Vrindavan, right? All of them moved to Vrindavan. And then some of them moved back to that Gokulam where they originally started, right? Where Krishna was originally there. So the Balarama had gone there to meet the Gopas and everything, and he spends a few months there. So they had this Yamuna was not flowing through Gokulam. Yamuna was only flowing through Vrindavan and Mathura. So what Balarama then does is, for the benefit of them, he takes his plow, and his plow, Balarama's plow, can take a bigger size as needed. And we are going to see a couple of examples of it in this Dasakam itself. So he takes it and then he moves the Yamuna towards Gokulam. So creating more tributaries of Yamuna, which also flow through Gokulam. That way he is able to help the people of Gokula. So that is one story. That's all there is to that. So in parallel, what happens when Balarama was out there, there was this king called as Paundraka. And this Paundraka was foolishly thinking that he is the supreme Lord Vasudeva, right? So he thinks that he was born, so he was Lord. He had a lot of people around him who used to flatter him and saying that you are actually that Vasudeva, you are the supreme Lord, you are the master of the universe, and you have now descended to this earth, and you are here to protect everybody, right? And you are the ultimate Bhagavan and everything, he used to say. And so this person also kept, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Somebody keeps telling you are great, you are great, you're great, and you start imagining, yeah, I am great, and you start behaving like that also. So went into a circle like that. So he had reached a stage where he then decided that I have to take some action. So he sends a messenger over with some message to Krishna here. So Rameta Gokula Gate Pramada Prasakte, Hutanupeta Yamuna Damane Madandhe Swairam Samaramati Sevaka Vada Mudho, Dutam Nyayungta Tava Paundraka Vasudevaha. Rame Gokulagate Pramadha Prasakte Hutanupeta Yamuna Damane Madandhe Swairam Samharamati Sevaka Vada Mudho Dutam Nyayungta Tava Paundraka Vasudevaha.
Rame Gogulagade Pramada Prasakte Hudanubeda Yamuna Damane Madande Swairam Samaramadi Sevagavada Mudo Dudam Neyungta Tava Paundraka Vasudevaha. Rame Gogulagade Pramada Prasakte Hudanubeda Yamuna Damane Madande Swairam Samaramadi Sevagavada Mudo Dudam Nyayungta Tava Paundraka Vasudevaha.
Rameta Gokulagate Pramada Prasakte Hutanupeta Yamuna Damane Madande Swairam Samaramati Sevakavada Mudo Dutam Nyayungta Tava Paundraka Vasudevaha.
And then in the third line, last letter, Mudho, the dha, emphasis dha.
Mudho.
Yeah.
Okay. Rameta Gokulagate Pramada Prasakte पूतानुपेतयमुनाधमने मदान्दे स्वैरं समारमति सेवकवादमूढो दूतं ययुङ्क्त तव पौण्ड्रकवासुदेवः.
Stanza 2. नारायणोऽहमवतीर्ण इहास्मि भूमौ दत्से किल त्वमपि मामकलक्षणानि उत्सृज्य तानि शरणं व्रजमामि ते त्वां दूतो जगाद सकलैर्हसितः सभायाम्. So this messenger is coming. So he sends a messenger to Dwaraka. So he comes to the court of Ugrasena where Krishna and everybody is there. And then he's reading this message, Poundraka's message there. So Poundraka says that I am the one and only Vasudeva who is a descendant of Mahavishnu who has actually come here. And I have been born here to protect all the beings and everything. And so he first tells Krishna, you have to give up your name. He says, you've taken up my name, right? It's a copyright infringement. So you have to first stop using. You know, this is a funny thing, right? Because I remember a couple of stories in this. I used to have a friend called Madhavan. And from childhood, everybody used to call him Maddie, right? Madhavan. Then this actor Madhavan came. And then he then started telling that he's the Maddie. That actor Madhavan started telling that he's Maddie. And my friend got so irritated. He said, I've been called Maddie since the childhood. Now this new guy comes and then he is trying to copyright the name Maddie. Right? Similarly here Poundraka is saying that the Vasudeva is my copyright. You first taken up that name. That's number one. Second, he says that you are carrying a lot of things like the Shankh, Chakram and all of those things, which are all supposed to be my instruments and my weapons and everything. So you have to surrender all of those to me. And if you are not, then you have to then fight a battle with me. And then you have to try to win this, right? So when he hears this, then that's why he says, Sakalair Hasita Sabhayam. So when they come and say this, everybody in the Sabha who's listening, they're all just making fun of him and they're all laughing, that what is this person? The problem is you can't let this person go because he's a very big king who has a big army and he's very serious about it. So while it might look funny for everybody, for all the people hearing, Krishna took it seriously because he knew what was going to happen otherwise, right? So Krishna then tells this messenger back saying, okay, communicate to your king that we will see, right? Either if I'll give it, or if I don't give it, we can have a battle and all that stuff, right? So Narayanoham, Narayano Aham, but it goes together. So Narayanoham Avathirna Ihasmi Bhumau, Datse Kila Twamapi Mamaka Lakshanani Utsrijya Tani Sharanam Vraja Mam Iti Twam, Duto Jagada Sakalair Hasitaha. So put is Hasitas Sabhayam. Narayanohamavatirna ihasmi bhumau dhatse kila twamapi mamakalakshanani utsrajyatani sharanam vrajamamite tvam duto jagada sakalair hasitas sabhayam.
Narayaноhamavadirna ihasmi bhumau dhatse kila tvamabhimamagalakshanani ulsrijyatani sharanam vrajamami ditvam dudo jagada sagalair hasidas sabhayam. Narayaноhamavadirna ihasmi bhumau dhatse kila tvamabhimamagalakshanani ulsrijyatani sharanam vrajamami ditvam dudo jagada sagalair hasidas sabhayam.
Narayanohamavatirna ihasmi bhumau datse kila tvamapi mamakalakshanani utsrijyatani sharanam vrajamami titvam duto jagada sakalair hasitas sabhayam. Narayanohamavatirna ihasmi bhumau datse kila tvamapi mamakalakshanani utsrijyatani sharanam vrajamami titvam duto jagada sakalair hasitas sabhayam.
And then the second line end in a Lakshanani, make sure you don't stretch that knee.
Okay, Lakshanani.
Yeah. Stanza 3. Dute tayatavati yadava sainikaistvam yato dadarshitavapuh kila paundrakiyam tapena vakshasi kritankamanalpamulya shrikaustubham makara kundalapita chelam. So when Krishna sends this message, so this messenger is going back to Paundraka Vasudeva and telling that, doesn't look like Krishna is going to, do what you're telling. So you should be ready. And so Krishna and this people, they then mount a chariot and they go to the border of his kingdom. So when Paundraka knows that Krishna is coming to attack, so he also gets ready and comes with an army. He is also supported by his very close friend, who is the king of Kashi. So that is another story that is going to continue. So the king of Kashi is also supporting Paundraka Vasudeva, and they are all ready with their army. So it is the first time Krishna is seeing this Paundraka Vasudeva face to face. And he saw that this person was dressed exactly like Krishna, right? See, even Uddhava was dressed exactly like Krishna. But then Uddhava was out of devotion. So it's totally fine to think you are Krishna, you are Narayana, and you want to dress up like him. There's nothing wrong with it. But you can't say that the power is me, right? So that was the issue that was happening here. So he saw that he was having the same thing. He was having the chakram, he was having the the conch shell, and he had the gadai and everything. In fact, he also had the saranga bow imitation. He also had he had a burnt mark in his chest to represent the Srivatsa mark that Narayana Vishnu has. So he also had that. He also had a Kaustubam gem, and he also had the Pita Chanam. He was also wearing an yellow garment, and he also Makara Kundalam. He was also wearing the fish-shaped earring, and it's all of that. And his chariot had a flag which had the symbol of Garuda, and he had exactly everything was absolutely the same. So I don't know if I told the story, but when I was small, there was a cousin of mine who used to love Rajnikant, and he used to always flip his glasses, right? Like Rajnikant used to do growing up, right? And he used to be doing this all the time. So when they had come for my Poonal, so my mama and all said, hey, just doing it with your hand is no big deal. You look like Rajni and everything. Rajni can also throw it up in the air and, catch it and all that, right? So this boy thought, okay, he's Rajni, and he threw it up in the air and it hit the fan and it broke, right? So, I mean, it's okay to imitate you are somebody, but you should know where your restrictions are, right? Anyway, so this Paundraka Vasudeva is standing exactly like Krishna. So Krishna is now looking and saying, okay, I have to somehow deal with this person here. So Dutete Yatavati Yadava Sainikais Tvam, comma, Yato Dadarshita Vapuhu is there, put a ichs on Vapuh Kila Paundrakiyam Tapena Vakshasi Kritankam Analpa, if you want to break it, Kritankam Analpa Mulya, and then put a plus, Shri Kaustubham Makara Kundala Pita Chelam. Tapena is like burning. So he had that mark which was burnt mark which was showing this shape. Dute Tayatavati Yadava Sainikaistwam Yato Dadarshita Vapuh Kila Paundrakiyam Tapena Vakshasi Kritankam Analpamulya Shri Kaustubham Makara Kundala Pita Chelam.
Dudhe Dayadavadi Yadava Sainikaistwam Yado Dadarshita Vapuh Paundragiyam Tabena Vakshasi Kridangamanalpamulya Sri Kaustubham Magara Kundala Pita Chelam. Dude Dayadavadi Yadava Sainikaistwam Yado Dadarshita Vapuh Paundragiyam Tabena Vakshasi Kridangamanalpamulya Sri Kaustubham Magara Kundala Pita Chelam.
Dute Tayatavati Yadava Sainikaistwam Yato Dadarshita Vapuh Kila Paundrakiyam Tapena Vakshasi Kritankamanalpamulya Shri Kaustubham Makara Kundala Pita Chelam. Dute Tayatavati Yadava Sainikaistwam Yato Dadarshita Vapuh Kila Paundrakiyam Tapena Vakshasi Kritankamanalpamulya Shri Kaustubham Makara Kundala Pita Chelam.
That's of Kalaya Samnita Nija Sudarshanamasiya Dosya Kalanalotkara Kirena Sudarshanena Shirsham Chakartitam Amardita Chasya Senam Tanmitra Kashipa Shiropi Chakarta Kashyam. So then a battle starts between Paundraka Vasudeva's army and Yadava army. And Krishna then tells Paundraka that you requested me to give up all the weapons and everything, so but be, he's giving him one more chance to leave. He's saying, but be reasonable and all that. And he says, but however, if you cannot, I will do a battle with you. And if I lose, you can take everything I have. else, that's going to be the end of you, right? So, however, this Paundraka then sends his, he also has a chakra, he also Sudarshana chakra imitation, right? So he's sending that over to Krishna and he says, I want you to send your Sudarshana chakra back to me, right? Because I want to take it. So Krishna says, okay, and Krishna sends a Sudarshana chakra to him, which of course he's not able to take, and Paundraka Vasudeva dies there. So along with it, there is also his another friend who was the king of Kashi. So what happens is this king of Kashi, when he leaves Kashi and his kingdom and he comes to this battle, he promises his people that I am going to bring the Dwarakadish's head and lay it in the middle of the city for you all to see, right? And his wives also go tell the maid that today is going to be a big day, or whenever the battle is going to be, it's going to be a big day. We're going to see the Dwarakadish's head lying in the city. So here when the battle happens, and then Krishna then severs his head, and his head goes and falls into the city of Kashi, and that story is going to continue. But anyway, so he also, the king of Kashi, is also killed in this. So Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanam Asya Tosya. If you want to break it, Sudarshanam Asya Tosya, comma Kala Nalotkara Kirena Sudarshanena Shirsham Chakartita Mamardita Chasya Senam, comma Tan Mitra Kashipa Shiropi Chakarta Kashyam. Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanam Tosya Kala Nalotkara Kirena Sudarshanena Shirsham Chakartita Mamardita Chasya Senam Tan Mitra Kashipa Shiropi Chakarta Kashyam.
Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanam Dosya Kalanalotkara Kirena Sudarshanena Shisham Jagarthida Mamardita Chasya Sena Tanmitra Kashi Bashiro Vijagartha Kashyam. Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanam Dosya Kalanalotkara Kirena Sudarshanena Shirsham Jagarthida Mamardita Chasya Sena Tanmitra Kashi Bashiro Vijagartha Kashyam.
Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanam Tosya Kalanalotkara Rakirena Sudarshanena Shisham Chakartita Mamardita Chasya Senam Tanmitra Kashi Pashiropi Chakarta Kashyam. Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanam Tosya Kalanalotkara Kirena Sudarshanena Shisham Chakartita Mamardita Chasya Senam Tanmitra Kashi Pashiropi Chakarta Kashyam.
Stanza 5. Jalyena balakagirapi kilahameva Shrivasudeva iti rudhamatishchiram saha Sayujyameva bhavadaikya dhiya gato bhute Konamakasya sukrutam katamityaveyat. So here Bhattacharya is kind of reflecting on this incident, right? So he's saying this Paundraka Vasudeva, who knows, it might have been just pure stupidity, right? He must just be dumb that he thought that he was Vasudeva himself, or it could be the people around him who then tried to convince him and he started believing it in his mind. But as far as Paundraka Vasudeva was concerned, all through the time he was always thinking of Krishna, always thinking of Vasudeva, and he was dressing as Vasudeva, and he was imitating the Lord. And so by constantly thinking of it, that's what he had in his mind. He believed he was a god himself. The mistake, however, which he did was he wanted to overpower the Lord himself and told the Lord to surrender. That was one mistake he did. But again, if you remember that 88th Dasakam last stanza where it says Soyam Krishna Avataro Jayati Tava Vibho, it says the Krishna Avataram is so beneficial that no matter how you were associated, it says Ashramair Yoga Bhedehi, you attained union with the Lord without any shramam, ashramam, right? So that's what even Bhattacharya is reflecting on this and saying, Ko Nama Kasya Sukritam, who knows what Sukrit, what good deeds this Paundraka Vasudeva must have done sometime in several of his previous lives. That this life he then came, and even though he was trying to fight with the Lord, and even though he thought he was Vasudeva himself, he attained Sayujyam with the Lord. Right? He was just blessed. He says, I don't know what good deeds he did, but he must have definitely done some good deed, because otherwise it is not possible. And if you also remember in the 74th Dasakam, when Krishna comes to Mathura. So Bhattaripat says, I must have missed, when all these people were lining the streets of Mathura and going and offering whatever they had, a vetalai or a paku or flower or water. He says, I must have been sitting in my house, not even going and seeing, which is why I'm stuck here again. Right? So he says, that's why he says some credit this guy must have done. We don't know what the history is, because of which he actually attained Sayujyam with the Lord here. So Jalyena Balaka Girapi Kilahameva, Shri Vasudeva iti Rudha Matish Chiram Saha Sayujyam eva Bavadaikya Dhiya Gato Bhut Ko Nama Kasya Sukrutam Katamitya Veyat. जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्.
जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्. जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्.
जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्. जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्.
ராஜேஷ் அதான் ஜாடியேன்னு போட்டிருக்கீங்கல்ல, ஜால்யேன இல்லையா?
Some books have Jadiyena, you are correct, but change it to Jalyena. Yeah, some books have it, yeah. Okay, so we'll switch. Aarti, you can be a student, and Vasu, if you're available, you can be a student. Okay.
Sure.
Stanza 6.
Rajesh, எனக்கு throat is completely gone, so. Okay, no worries.
Shobha, நீங்க student இருக்கீங்களா?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stanza 6. काशीश्वरस्य तनयोत सुदक्षिणाख्यः शर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणाति भीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चते. So now the story shifts away from Paundraka Vasudeva. So this, when the head of the king of Kashi was lying outside the gates of the city. So when first people came and they thought really it was Dwarakadish Krishna's severed head, because that's what the Kashi's king had promised. But then later on they realized that it is Kashi's king's head which is sitting there. So he had a son called Sudakshina. So this Sudakshina, immediately after he performed the final rites for his father, he then took a vow. He said, the person who killed my father, I'm going to destroy him. That's he wanted to avenge the death. So it says even here, at that time, right? So this was when Krishna was there. So this is what, 2020 now, to 2000 years here, another 3,500 years back. So 5,500, 6,000 years back. He was praying to Kashi Vishwanatha. He was praying to Shiva in Kashi at the Shiva temple, right? So the reference to Kashi Vishwanatha was there even 6,000 years back, right? So he's doing this big sacrifice to Kashi Vishwanatha there, along with a lot of priests and everything. And then somehow he gets a boon from Shiva that he wants a Kritya. You remember that Kritya also came in Ambarisha Charitram, right? The same Kritya, Durvasha sends his Kritya, which is like an evil spirit, right? So he then gets it. The Shiva then gives him a grant. However, Shiva says you cannot use it in the improper manner. So against righteous people, against all those people, you cannot use it. But however, he gets a boon from Shiva and then a Kritya is coming out right now to to his help. So Kashishwarasya Tanayota Sudakshinakyah, comma, Sharvam Prapujya Bhavate Bihitabhicharaha Krityanalam Kamapi Bana Ranati Bhitaihi. So put a visarga there in the comma. Next time on top of that bhu, the ir goes away. Bhutaihi is there, put a ich sound. Bhutaih katanchana vritaihi, put a is, vritais. Samam abhyamunchat, if you want to break it. Kashishwarasya tanayota sudakshinakyah sharvam prapujya bhavate vihita bhicharaha krityanalam kamapi banaranati bhitaihi bhutaih katanchana vritai samam abhyamunchat.
काशीश्वरस्य तनयोत सुदक्षिणाख्यः सर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणातिभीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चत् काशीश्वरस्य तनयोत सुदक्षिणाख्यः सर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणातिभीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चत्
काशीश्वरस्य तनयोद सुदक्षिणाख्यः सर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणादिभीदैः भूतैः कदञ्जनवृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चत् काशीश्वरस्य तनयोद सुदक्षिणाख्यः सर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणादिभीदैः भूतैः कदञ्जनवृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चत्.
Stanza 7.
Rajesh, just one question.
Yeah.
This Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, they are also from Kashi, isn't it? Are they related to this?
No, but Ambalika, they were during the Mahabharata. I mean, yeah, to Bhishma's time, right? Like,
yeah. So
from a timeline.
They are not related to this.
I don't know. I don't know if they're related or no. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Stanza 7. Tala pramana charanam akhilam dahantim krityam vilokya chakitaih katitopi pauraih dhyutotsave kimapi no chalito vibhotvam parshvastamashu visasarjita kala chakram. So when this fire, when the talks about how this kritya is, right, so the fire is coming from the sacrifice, so from that comes like a massive sized spirit, which is like, it's like a naked person who's coming, and he says the hair on his head and all his body is like mold, it's like a dark reddish color, and then his eyes are as if there's fire coming out of his eyes, right? And then he's also so tall, he says his legs are as tall as tala pramana, means like it's as tall as like a palm tree, right? So which means like a really tall, so he's a very tall person, right? And this monster is just, he's spitting fire coming out of him, and as this person is running or he's moving around, he's just burning dahantim, everything which is on his way. So here, that's why you see the word akilam is getting used, like I said earlier, akilam versus nikilam. So akilam is whatever is in my subset of space. So anything he sees on his way is akilam. And the last time we said in the last chapter, nikilam means not just what is in my vicinity, everything, right? No exceptions, right? That is different, slight difference, right? So anyway, here akilam, so he's burning everything which is actually coming along his way. And then when he's entering into Dwaraka right now, and then as he enters into Dwaraka, he also burns some things there. So everybody comes running to Krishna, and Krishna is just sitting as always, and he's playing dice. He's always playing, the dice. So somebody comes and tells him that this something is coming which is burning everything in Dwaraka. So he says, okay, don't worry, I will protect you. So Tala Pramana Charanam Akhilam Dahantim, comma, Krityam Vilokya Chakitaihi. So put a ich sound, Chakitaih. Katitopi Pauraihi. Dyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam, comma, Parshvastam Ashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram. So there was one, I just remembered because it says Chalito here, I remembered one thing. So in the Mahabharata, right? So when the Pandavas and Kauravas go to play game of dice, so at the time, the Shakuni tells that Duryodhana has hurt his hand, so he cannot play the dice. Do you mind if I roll the dice on Duryodhana's behalf? Yudhishthira is like, okay, that's fine. So at one point in the future, somebody comes and tells Krishna, how did you not prevent all these things from happening? Right? So Krishna says, one, Pandavas consulted Krishna in everything, every step they took. But when they went to the game of dice, they did not ask or tell Krishna at all. Number one. So Krishna says, if you want my help, you have to tell me. But everything else they consulted, the game of dice, they did not consult. And number two, he said is, when Duryodhana said that Shakuni can play instead of him, Yudhishthira should have said, I want Krishna to play instead of me. Because Shakuni was extremely cunning and he was one of the wisest of people who was there. But the problem for him was on the opposite side was Krishna. If Krishna was not there, then Shakuni would have just eaten the Pandavas alive, right? Because he was so smart and so cunning. So then the reason I'm saying that is because this dice keeps coming all the time, because Krishna is playing dice all the time, right? So that's what they say. What Yudhishthira should have done, he should have said, okay, if Shakuni is going to play for you, I love Krishna, play for me, right? Then this incident would have not happened. It's just some other story, but I'm saying this only because in the context of Krishna was playing dice here, right? Nothing connected with the story otherwise. So Tala Pramana Charanam Akilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitaih Katitopi Pauraihi Dhyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram.
Tala Pramana Charanamakilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitai Katitopi Pauraihi Dyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram. Tala Pramana Charanamakilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitai Katitopi Pauraihi Dyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram.
Tala Pramana Charanamakilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitai Katito Pauraihi Dyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram. Tala Pramana Charanamakilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitai Katito Pauraihi Dyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram.
So just chinna correction in the fourth line la Parshvastamashu Sha. The su kettudu.
Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram.
Stanza 8. अभ्यापतत्यमितधाम्नि भवन्महास्त्रे हाहेति विद्रुतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषात्सु दक्षिणमदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीम् अधाक्षीत्. So Krishna then realizes who this Kritya is, how this person came about and everything. So because he was in the middle of this game of that he was playing, he said, you know what, I'm not going to come. However, I'm going to send my Sudarshana Chakra, just like what happened with Ambarisha, right? So he sends a Sudarshana Chakra. So when the Sudarshana Chakra is sent, this Kritya realizes that it cannot battle Sudarshana Chakra. But like this Brahmastra and other astrams, when they are sent, they will always do their duty. And if they cannot do the duty, they will turn back and they will come and hurt the creator. So this Kritya, when it realizes that it cannot fight Sudarshana Chakram, it cannot go hurt Krishna, it turns around and it comes back to Kashi and it has to then get rid of its creator, because it is like, it has to do something. You told it to kill, it has to kill somebody. And the next choice in its list is the person who created it. So it comes back, and the Sudakshina and all the other people who contributed to creation of this Kritya, it then burns them off completely. And so that's how they all then essentially go. And one other thing that happens here, which I don't know why, the context, because there must be some reason. It also says that the Sudarshana Chakram then also goes and burns down the city of Kashi. some portions of Kashi. I don't know why that happens, but anyway, some portion of the city of Kashi is also burnt. So Abhyapatat Yamita. So that you have to say it together. Abhyapatat Yamita Dhamni Bhavan Mahastre, comma, Ha Heti Vidrutavati Khalu Ghora Kritya Roshat Sudakshinam Adakshina Cheshtitam. Some books don't have the thumb there. So Cheshtitam Tam. So two thumbs coming there. Cheshtitam Tam, comma, Puplosha Chakramapi Kashi Purim Adhakshit. Abhyapatatyamitadhamni bhavan mahastre haheti vidhrutavati khalu ghora kritya roshatsu dakshinam cheshtitam tam puplosha chakramapi kashi purim adhakshit.
अभ्यापदत्यमितदाम्नि भवन्महास्त्रे हाहेति विद्रुतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषात् सुदक्षिणमदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीमदाक्षीत् अभ्यापदत्यमितदाम्नि भवन्महास्त्रे हाहेति विद्रुतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषात् सुदक्षिणमदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीमदाक्षीत्
अभ्यापतत्यमिदधाम्नि भवन्महास्त्रे हाहेति विद्रुतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषात् सुदक्षिणमदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीमदाक्षीत्.
Hi Rajesh. Is it Abhyo or Abhya? First word.
Abhya.
Okay. Thank you.
Abhya.
Shobha.
No problem. Atyabatatyamidadamni bhavanmahastre hahedi vitrutavadi kalu ghora kritya roshat sudakshina madakshina cheshtidam tam puplosha chakramabi kashipuri madakshit.
Stanza 9. Changes tune. Sakhalu vividho raksho ghate kritopakritish pura tabatu kalaya mrityum praptum tada khalatam gatah naraka sachivo desha klesham sujannagarantike jhatiti halina yuddhan adda papata talahatah. So that's Sudakshina. That story is also down. Now there's another story called a Vividha. So this Vividha is supposed to be a big monkey or an ape or a gorilla, and which was friends with Narakasura. So because Narakasura was then killed and was dead, it wanted to take some revenge. So this Vividha was in the some of the outskirts of Dwaraka somewhere. So one day, so what this Vividha used to do, that is the name of the ape, Vividha. So this Vividha used to go, and it used to, all the sages who used to go and do homam and all, it used to go break the trees, it used to urinate into the homa kundam, it used to completely disrupt everything. So one day what it actually does is, it took some women, abducted some women and went and hid them into a cave and blocked it with a boulder. It started doing all these different things. So Balarama then goes there, and then he then fights with this, and then he gets rid of this Vividha. That's pretty much the story. There's nothing much there. The only significance thing here is, so here in Bhattaripada is saying that this was a Vividha which was in a long time back, right? Rakshogate, when you were fighting with Ravana, so there was one monkey which helped you fight against Ravana. So, and when Rama and Lakshmana were there, it was helping the Rama and Lakshmana. So it then saw how, the great these gods were, and it wanted to get killed at the hands of one of you. So then this is taking birth as this Vividha. This monkey is now taking birth as this ape, and all this is happening. That is referenced here. I didn't see anywhere else, but Bhattaripada is saying, yes, you must have got it from somewhere, that reference. But anyway, this Vividha was there, and then Balarama then gets rid of it. Sakhalu Vivido Raksho Ghate Kritopakritihi, is there, put a F there, Kritopakritih Pura, comma, Tava tu Kalaya Mrityum Praptum Tada Khalatam Gataha. Sakhalu vividho raksho ghate kritopakritiः pura tava tu kalaya mrityum praptum tada khalatam gatah.
सकलु विविधो रक्षो गाते कृतोपकृतिः पुरा तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तुं तथा कलतां गतः सकलु विविधो रक्षो गाते कृतोपकृतिः पुरा तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तुं तथा कलतां गतः
सकलु विविधो रक्षो गादे कृतोपकृतिः पुरा तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तुं तदा कलतां गतः.
Shobha, on the first line, kritopakriti.
कृतोपकृतिः. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
सकलु विविधो रक्षो गाते कृतोपकृतिः पुरा तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तुं तदा कलतां गतः.
Naraka sachivo desha klesham srijan nagarantike, comma, jhatiti halina yuddhan nadha. So double na double dha. Yuddhan nadha papata talahataha. Naraka sachivo desha klesham srijan nagarantike jhatiti halina yuddhan nadha papata talahataha.
नरक सचिवो देश क्लेशं सृजन्नगरान्तिके जटिति हलिना युध्यन्नद्दापपात तलाहतः नरक सचिवो देश क्लेशं सृजन्नगरान्तिके जटिति हलिना युध्यन्नद्दापपात तलाहतः
नरक शशिवो देश क्लेशं सृजन्नगरान्तिके जटिति हलिना युध्यन्नद्दा पपात तलहातः नरक शशिवो शशियस् च बदल
Naraka sachivo cha.
सचिवो. ओके. नरक सचिवो देश क्लेशं सृजन्नगरान्तिके जडिति हलिना युध्यन्नद्दा पपाद तलहतः सॉरी
Consultant. Sambham Kauravyapuत्री Harananiyamitam Santvanarti Kurunha Yatastadvakya Rosha Adritakari Nagaro Mochayamasa Ramah Tegatya Pandabhihairiti Yadupratanam Namuchastvam Tadanim Tam Tvam Durbhodalilam Pavanapurapate Tapashantye Nisheve. So another story happens here. So for Krishna and Jambavati, there is a son born called as Shamba, Saamba, Samba. So this Shamba, just like Krishna, this Samba also decides to go abduct somebody during a Swayamvaram. And he ends up abducting Duryodhana's daughter. Right, like they show in these movies, right? The hero goes and abducts one girl, then he finds she's a villain's daughter itself, right? So similarly, he goes and abducts Duryodhana's daughter, right? Her name is Lakshana. Lakshana is her name. So when Samba abducts her, of course, all these people come to fight with him. He tries to resist for some time. At some point, he's not able to. So they then, they arrest him and then they bring him to Hastinapura. Both Shamba and Lakshana are both brought back to Hastinapura. So then when this reaches the Yadavas, so Krishna and Ugrasena hears this, then Krishna says, I'm not going to go and interfere in this matter, because he knows the Kauravas' death or end has to come from the Pandavas, right? That is destined. So Krishna says, I am not going to go. So Balarama says, so the Yadavas sent an army, but Balarama says, I am going to go in a peacekeeping mission because he has good relationship with the Kauravas, right? So Balarama goes there and then he goes and talks to them and everything, but the the Kauravas do not agree to it. They do not agree to whatever Balarama says. And they say, you are just a Yadava. We are like Kauravas. We are even more powerful. So you can't come and dictate terms with us, right? So they say all these things. So Balarama gets really angry. And he says, you don't know my strength. And that's when, like the first stanza started, he takes his plow and he starts digging the earth or the ground. So Hastinapura will actually go get merged into the Ganges. He was trying to literally bring the water over into Hastinapura or move the entire city towards the Ganges with his plow, right, by digging into the earth. So when that happens, the Kauravas all realize the strength and they come back to Balarama, they apologize, and Duryodhana then officially gives Lakshana in hands to Samba. So that's how Krishna becomes Duryodhana's like Sambandhi. He becomes this, those, because Krishna's son is now Duryodhana is the in-law, right? So this story comes later on. It comes because when Duryodhana and Arjuna are going and meeting with Krishna, right? And Arjuna is sitting in the front, Duryodhana is sitting in the head, and then Duryodhana gets, Krishna says, "I'll give you two choices. Either I am on one side, or you have the entire Yadav army on one side." So then Arjuna takes Krishna, Duryodhana takes the entire army. He feels super excited. He goes back to Shakuni and said, "Mama, we won the war." This is why, because we got the entire Yadava army. And this is Shakuni said, "You made a mistake. You lost Krishna, and that is what we don't need." But he says, still nothing is lost. He says, who is he? He is your Sambandhi. You go ask him, right? You have that right. So he says, you go and ask him that he should not take weapon in the war also. So that's when Duryodhana goes to Krishna and says, "I have one more request for you. As a Sambandhi, I have one more request for you." Krishna says, what? He says, Duryodhana says, you should not take weapon in the war. And you should just be there and not take any weapon. So that is how this end up comes in. Duryodhana, Shakuni uses this to his advantage, right? But anyway, so that is the story that happens here. He says, and here Bhadrapad says, what is this? Is Tam Tvam Durbodha Leelam, this Leela of yours, of why you didn't go and all that, nobody understood at that time, but you know what is going to come later, and there's a reason you did all these things. So Sambam Kauravya Putri Harana Niyamitam, Santvanarti Kurunam, Yatas Tadvakya Roshad Dhrita Kari Nagaro, Mochayamasa Ramaha. Sambham Kauravya Putri Harana Niyamitam Santvanarti Kurunam Yatas Tadvakya Rosha Dhritakari Nagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha.
Sambam Kauravya Harana Niyamitam Santvanarti Kurunam Yatas Tadvakya Rosha Dhritakari Nagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha. Sambham Kauravya Harana Niyamitam Santvanarti Kurunam Yatas Tadvakya Rosha Dhritakari Nagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha.
Sambam Kauravya Harana Niyamitam Santvanarti Kurunam Yadastattvakya Rosha Dhritakari Nagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha.
Shobha, on the first line, Santuva, in and it, Santuva Narti. It, Santuva.
Narti, sure. Sambam Kauravya Harana Niyamitam Santvanarti Kurunam Yadastattvakya Roshat Dhritakari Nagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha.
Te Ghatyaha, put a F Ghatyaf, Pandaveyairiti, Yadu Prithanam, Namuchas Tvam Tadanim, Tam Tvam Durbodha Leelam, Pavana Purapate Tapa Shantye Nisheve. Te Ghatyaf Pandaveyairiti, Yadu Prithanam, Namuchas Tvam Tadanim, Tam Tvam Durbodha Leelam, Pavana Purapate Tapa Shantye Nisheve.
Te Gatyaf Pandaveyairiti Yadupratanam Namuchastvam Tadanim Tam Tvam Durbodha Leelam Pavana Purapate Tapashantyai Nisheve. Te Gatyaf Pandaveyairiti Yadupratanam Namuchastvam Tadanim Tam Tvam Durbodha Leelam Pavana Purapate Tapashantyai Nisheve.
Shobha, mute.
Yeah, I got it. आद्या पाण्डवैरिति यदुपृतनां नामुचस्वं तदानीं तं त्वां दुर्बोधलीलं पवनपुरपते तापशान्त्यै निषेवे ते गाद्याः पाण्डवैरिति यदुपृतनां नामुचस्वं तदानीं तं त्वां दुर्बोधलीलं पवनपुरपते तापशान्त्यै निषेवे. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
Okay, I think we can stop here. Next one, I'll start the next one, 84 on the next class. Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावदेभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Rajesh. Happy Pongal. Thank
Happy
you.
Pongal.
Happy Pongal.